I'm live. Am I live? I can't hear myself. Anyways, welcome to the first live show that I've done. And I just want to talk quickly about the election coming up for Canada. Canada votes on April 28th. Right now it's March 24th. So that gives us about a month. Isn't that crazy? They give us a month. Mark Carney actually decided he called the vote on yesterday, the 23rd, which is a Sunday. He dissolved Parliament. The most surprising thing about all this is that anything actually got done on a Sunday by the government. But yeah, he called the vote very, he wants to have um, a short time frame. And I think this is because he is in his honeymoon period. Kamala Harris had a similar honeymoon period when she was made leader of the Democratic Party and put on the top of the ticket. But I would argue that if you vote for Mark Carney, you're going to be making the same mistake that that people made when they chose Kamala over Trump. Now, I know a lot of Canadians have issues with Trump, especially boomers. I get it. Okay. You don't like him. Relax. There is no Canadian version of Trump. Of course, Mark Carney and the Liberals will try to paint Pierre Poilievre as the Trump of Canada, but it just doesn't make any sense. It's just so far from the truth. Pierre is much more uh, liberal light. If you were going to vote for the Liberal Party, but you just wanted to have, a slightly more competent manager, then voting for Pierre makes sense. I want to talk about this book, um, Mark Carney Values. First of all, it's way too long, 500 and something pages. Ridiculous. Any publisher would tell him that, buddy, you don't need 500 pages. What the heck are you doing? And I haven't read much of it, but I've read enough to know that this guy's clearly not an author. He's clearly a banker. So I believe that part of his story. Um, but if you vote, what I'm going to try to convince you over this election, period, if you will watch, my videos, because I'm going to make more videos like this all the way leading up to the election to try to shed some light and maybe a different perspective. Now, maybe you don't agree with me. That's fine. You are entitled to your own opinion. You can vote for whoever you want. But I think we have a problem in Canada that we don't converse and talk. Like even my own family, I'm kind of the only conservative minded guy. And I don't mean that, I'm big on Pierre Poilievre. I just mean that I'm not down for what the Liberals were doing. I think they were terrible governors. I never voted for Trudeau. In fact, I was probably 2 weeks away from voting for him originally back in 2012. Was it when he first ran? Or maybe 2011? But I didn't vote for him. I never voted for him. I didn't vote for, the NDP, who won the BC election by a slim, but they still won. So, my vote is pretty much doesn't count. I tend to always vote for the loser. So what I would say is that a vote for the Liberal Party is a vote for what's been going on for the last 9 years. Like yes, they got rid of Trudeau, and that was a smart move strategically by the Liberals, but they're not very liberal in the classical sense. They're authoritarian, they're top-down structure, planned economy, planned cities, big government, high taxes. They're not for, letting the free market, and which when people the free market is people making choices. That's what the free market is. People, entering economic partnerships, deciding who to work for, deciding what projects to take on, and taking land, labor, and capital and producing products. Now, I believe that the biggest crisis we have in Canada is the immigration and productivity. Now, the immigration, I think the Liberals completely botched. I love immigrants. I've never had a problem with immigrants. I live in Vancouver, very multicultural, very, there's a lot of good things about it. Uh, but over the last 4 years, it was crazy. I think they let in something like 4 million people. That's 10% of Canada's only 40 million. Letting in 4 million people is insanity. We used to have a great immigration system that was points based. Other countries were very jealous. But, Trudeau and his Liberals, under wanting to look and appear welcoming, and that whole diversity is our strength scheme, just wanted to bring more and more people in, and that's what they did, and it's destroying our productivity. So the people, we used to only bring in people that were needed, that if we had a lack of skill somewhere, if we had a lack of people that could do a certain job, then we would be looking for those people globally. And if they could speak English, if they could pass the other tests that said yes, you had Canadian values, then you were allowed in. But recently, the immigrants we've been taking in are more refugee. Canada's not really set up for refugees, in my opinion. It's very expensive here. It's very tough to, to support a family. Like, if you come in as a refugee, your only option really is to live off of the welfare state, which is what is happening, which is what's creating the productivity crisis in our country. Because for every, the government, this is how the government works, just in a very broad nutshell. The government taxes the private sector. They take money from the people that are producing goods, and they redistribute it to the people that need welfare or need, whatever, for everything that the government does. So they take from the people that are producing and they give to the people that essentially are not producing. And that is okay. That has worked in Canada for a long time. And the difference now is that it's happening on a much larger scale, to the point where you have more people that are taking from the government than people that are giving to the government. I think more people in Canada get more taxes than they pay, which is a problem, because now we have people who are just living on the dole, who are just voting for Liberal and NDP policies so that they can continue to receive the benefits that they want. Which I don't, you know, if that is your situation, it's a great strategy. I don't fault those people for being like, well, the Liberal government said that I would get this money when I came here, and I want to make sure I keep getting that money. So, this is the way that I'm voting. I get it. Valid. Your perspective, this is mine. So, other than productivity, so immigration and productivity, those things are tied together. And the way to untangle that is to make sure that we are putting more money in the hands of the people that are producing. That means we need to pay less taxes. I'll give you an example. Income tax. In my opinion, it's far too high. But if there was only an income tax, that would be acceptable. The problem, I pay income tax. The government takes about 30% of my check, 40%, up to 50%, because I get my check and then I go to the store and I have to buy groceries for my family and I pay GST, I pay PST. So the dollars that I get that have already been taxed, I get taxed again. And this happens over and over and over. For example, I make investments, I get capital gains from those investments. I have to put that on my taxes and I get taxed on it every tax year if it's outside a tax free savings account. Now, every account in Canada should be tax free. We should only be taxed once. Once a dollar has been taxed, that's my dollar. Okay. I don't like you take it when I work for my income, okay, but then I'm not paying, sales tax. That's BS. So the problem, the way that I see it, and you can tell me if you don't see it this way, you think I'm, a nuts crazy guy. But the way that I see it is that we need to reduce the tax burden on the mass majority of Canadians. So everyone who makes, $50,000 to the people who make $300,000, $400,000, because these are the people that are getting hit the hardest with the taxes. And these are the people that are, trying to support families. You might think, oh, $200,000. Well, that's a lot of money. If you try to live in Vancouver and support a family off a single income, making $200,000, there's no way, you can do it and live the lifestyle you would think you could on that kind of money. Because if you make $200,000, you're actually taking home, like your take home pay is like 110, maybe 120. Best case scenario, 130. And then you're paying taxes when you consume, when you buy things. So really, you only get to spend 50 cents out of every dollar you make. So the solution, the way that I see it, is that we need to reduce taxes. The Liberals just proposed, Mark Carney just proposed a reduction in the income tax. Guess how much? 1%. The Bank of Canada's inflation target, which they don't even hit, is 2%. So he's not even giving you a cut that would keep up with inflation. In fact, his cut is 50%. It's half of the inflation target. But the Bank of Canada just lowered interest rates again, which means that inflation is going to heat up. So, and even the inflation numbers, I really don't believe, because let me tell you, I used to buy, all the best cuts of meat, all the food that I wanted, and I maybe spent $250 a week. Now I am watching every single dollar, buying the, bottom of the barrel cuts of meat, being very thrifty, and I spend $500 a week easy on groceries. So selfishly, I want to pay less tax, and I think other hardworking Canadians deserve to pay less tax too. And I think that we can simplify the tax code. And is Pierre Poilievre the party to do that? I don't know. I don't think so. His tax plan, he proposed a tax cut. It was only 2.5%. So about $2,500 a year. Carney's was 1%, 800 a year. Both of these do not go even close to far enough, in my view. Inflation is just out of control, and we need to seriously cut back income tax and simplify the tax code so we can reduce all the people who work at CRA, who, That's what our taxes go to. So yeah, if you watch this, I know there's tons of things to watch. I know it's, very this is very, people might not like watching it. We're Canadian. We don't like talking about the way we do things. We like to vote, in silence and then just see what happens. But yeah, I am glad you decided to stop by. There's a whole internet worth of stuff to watch. So uh, I'll be giving you another update very soon when I learn more and read some more about this. But so far, I'm not liking where I see Mark Carney. It's the same Liberal Party, lipstick on a pig. There's no difference. So I'll let you know when I know more. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Bye bye.